My name is Youssef Munayer. I'm the Executive Director of the Jerusalem Fund and the Palestine Center, which is bringing you this program today. And before we get underway, I just wanted to make a couple of announcements about upcoming events. You can get some of the flyers about these events coming up on the table on your way out if you didn't get them on your way in, and also sign up for our mailing list if you'd like to do that and if you're not already on it. Just to let you know, this evening we actually have an event here at the Jerusalem Fund Gallery, and you may have seen this postcard and some of the really fabulous photos that are hanging on the walls outside in the gallery area. This is a photo exhibit called Palestinians Meanwhile by Elena Farsakh, and she will be on hand this evening at the opening, which is at 6:30 tonight, and she will have a chance to chat with anybody who's interested about the photos and taking them and some of the really amazing shots that she had, which I'm sure you all had a chance to see on the way in. Next Wednesday, so that's the 27th, Wednesday the 27th at 12:30 p.m. we have really interesting discussion with Dr. Ilana Feldman, who wrote a very interesting article for the Journal of Palestine Studies on the role of humanitarianism and how it could be prolonging the Palestinian political plight. So I think you may want to take a look at the flyer on that, as well as the 9th of February, which is a Tuesday. We have an event with Mr. Bill Corcoran, who is the president of American Near East Refugee Aid, or ANERA, to debrief about the humanitarian situation on the ground in Gaza. He has just returned from Gaza recently and will be telling us about the conditions there 1 year on now from Operation Cast Lead. So moving on to today's event, which is entitled The Palestinian Economy, Recent Experience and Prospects in 2010, a very timely discussion. I'm sure many of you have been keeping up with some of the debates and reports coming out of the Palestinian territories in the past year about so-called economic development or the lack thereof. It's definitely been a topic of discussion in D.C. and also in the media, and so I've asked Dr. Oussama Kanaan, who's been very kind to come and speak to us about this issue. And Dr. Kanaan is the Chief of Mission and Resident Representative in the West Bank and Gaza, and he's here in D.C. now. And he's been working with the IMF since 1993 and is the author of numerous publications, which include articles in economics, particularly applied to countries in the Middle East, including, of course, the West Bank and Gaza, and the role of economics in the peace process. He has a degree in economics from Yale University, and I hope you join me in welcoming Dr. Oussama Kanaan.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Youssef. I'm going to try a new approach in presenting the developments and prospects this time. I was just talking with Youssef about how the numbers could really have an effect of a smoke screen very often, and then you will have very often cases where the media picks on certain numbers, and no matter how well you explain the context of it, the general effect that has on the interpretation of the economic conditions is misinterpreted. One important case in point recently is my team had produced figures for the real GDP growth for 2009, a projection at that time, a few months ago. And we projected the rate of growth for the West Bank of 7%. And data so far are in line with this projection. That provoked a huge debate in the media. On one side, we had people who are trying to interpret it as meaning that you could have growth that is sustainable even under occupation. and therefore this idea of the economic peace that some are espousing, which if it's interpreted to be economic peace without complementary progress on the peace front, is possible. And others saying, well, actually this is very unlikely that you could have that rate of growth. And comparisons were made, for example, with Singapore or with countries that had such high rates of growth, and that growth was sustainable. So what I'll try to do, and that's perhaps an experimental approach, is to really focus on the qualitative aspects and the core issues. And for all the technicalities and all the numbers, I invite you to go to the IMF website, and we have the latest report that is published there. And so you could see all the numbers, all the technicalities. But here, I just want to try an approach in which I will try to be as qualitative as possible and focus on the core issues and try to give a sense about the forces that exist and are operative in the West Bank and Gaza that could lead to a normal life. I think this is really the core of it. We have started in mid-2007, right after the era of government by Hamas, by having an extraordinarily constrained situation. And we have been moving very slowly towards normal conditions in the West Bank, and in Gaza we have a deterioration. But nevertheless, what we'll try to ask ourselves is, what are the forces that exist that the Palestinians, the Palestinian Authority in particular, as the agent, as the body that has the policymakers, could use and could use as a basis for economic development, even under those constraints. So just to give you a retrospective of what has happened since mid-2007. If you remember, the government of Prime Minister Fayyad took office around in the spring of 2007, right after a period of financial sanctions and a period in which the public finance management system was highly fragmented. And the main challenge from an economic standpoint of the Palestinian Authority then was to use fiscal policy and to try to bring back order to the public finance management system as to provide the minimum conditions for institution building in the West Bank and Gaza. So what we had then is a budget that was largely aimed at or largely consisted of wages and salaries. Half of the expenditures consisted of wages and salaries. About 20% consisted either of utility